Good morning. It's time to call to order the November 21st, 2013 meeting of the Oklahoma City Airport Trust. First item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 24th, 2013 Airport Trust meeting. What is the director's trustees' opinion?
Approval.
For a motion and a second, please cast your votes. And it's approved. Next up, director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. My report this morning will consist of a couple of short presentations. First, I'd like Karen Carney to come up to the podium. Last Friday afternoon, we unveiled a new Del Chihuly glass sculpture exhibit at the airport. Very excited about this amenity now that is at Will Rogers World Airport. And Karen was point on this as the airport partnered with the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. And I especially want to thank Frank Merrick, who's the board chairman, and E. Michael Whittington, who's their president and CEO. Both of them attended the event last Friday, as did Trustee Greenwell, who was acting as vice mayor. I asked Karen to put a few pictures together for us this morning on the new exhibit, and also to talk a little bit about the installation. It was a little unique, much different environment, Karen, for the airport from the museum. So please take it over.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, I did want to point out before I kind of hit the little picture show here is that the museum actually did a lot of work prior to bringing the exhibit to the airport. As you can imagine, the airport environment is significantly different than the museum environment, with 3.5 million people coming through every year with luggage and food and janitorial equipment and all kinds of fun things. So they did quite a bit of work just preparing this exhibit for the airport. So it arrived last week ago, Monday night. They had 7 shipping boxes with the glass in it, which had to be removed very carefully, and all of it had to be cleaned by hand prior to installation. At the same time, they were working on installing the light. Unlike a museum where the exhibit is lit from above, this had to be lit from within. So they did quite a bit. And then when they lifted the, I've made my speech is much longer than my slide presentation. But anyway, it was a pretty amazing thing when they unveiled it. We had Trustee Greenwell there as vice mayor, as well as Frank Merrick, the chairman of the Oklahoma Museum of Art Board. And ever since the installation, people have just been down around the piece itself, taking pictures of the piece, taking pictures of themselves in front of the piece, and basically just kind of probably the most common comment that I've heard so far is, "This is awesome." So you can't get a much better resounding endorsement of the exhibit at the airport. We're very excited about that. So it's there permanently. Right now we know that I say permanently, it will be on loan for us for at least 2 years, and we hope that we'll be able to continue to have it there longer than that. So beautiful piece, and we're glad to have it.
Thank you, Karen. A great amenity, as I said, to Will Rogers World Airport, and we're working on a couple of other art concepts to bring forward at a later date. This is just so exciting that it will immediately introduce visitors, first-time visitors to our airport, to what a quality art piece this is, and I think introduce them to the Oklahoma City art community.
Mark, I was on a plane a few weeks ago, and some guy was coming to a meeting here. He goes, there's nothing to do there. And I wanted to get in an argument, but I decided not to create a scene on the aircraft. But I wouldn't do that, Jim. But anyway, this is great because when they're in our airport, they're going to say, "Hey, look at that." You know, and we have some other great things that we can highlight at our airport that show people that there's a lot to do here in Oklahoma City. It's high quality. So thank you.
Karen's pictures are great, but they do not do justice for it. I flew in Friday night, and first thing I did was go over and take a picture of it and tweeted it out because I thought it was really, really neat. But it's much bigger than it appears in the pictures and the colors and such. It's much more vibrant. And I think it kind of embraces the Oklahoma culture because it's right next to Sonic, and so you can go get the chili dog and then walk over and look at the Chihuly glass. And I think that kind of embraces Oklahoma and Oklahoma City.
Thank you. My next presentation today, as a part of our ongoing strategic land development program for Will Rogers World Airport, where we first focused on the first 1,000 acres, more or less, on the east side of the airport. For the last couple of years, we've been through a significant planning progress, and now we're constructing infrastructure over there and realigning Portland Avenue. One of the last pieces of this program was to further enhance the planning for the mixed-use area, in particular the retail area that we're planning to have in the area of Southwest 74th Street and the new Portland Avenue. So Lee Fisher and Tracy Thompson is here to talk a little bit about that. And she's been on point from the very beginning, helping us through all the facilitations with the airlines and the FAA to get this land development program approved. And we actually brought on at a later date a couple of urban planners to help us further refine this district. So Tracy, if you'd introduce yourself and the team, and we'll let them show their presentation.
Thank you very much, Mark. Mr. Chairman and members of the Trust, thank you for having us out here today. It's good to see many of you again, all of you again. Before I get started, this is a very brief presentation to bring you up to speed of where we are today. I am Tracy Thompson. I'm one of the managing directors at Lee Fisher Aviation Management Consulting Firm. And with me today from Lee Fisher is Ryan Haldy from our D.C. office, and Ryan is kind of the brains behind the operation here for Lee Fisher, so I wanted to make sure I acknowledged him. Also, with me today are two members of our team. We have Francois DeCock from Half & Associates and Dennis Wilson from Townscape, both of which are urban planning specialists who have done the details for the village at Lariat Landing. As Mark mentioned, and I did the end of the slideshow, so I obviously did that wrong. It was a very short presentation, so I'm going to let the mouse alone. Yeah. Did I do that? And if I did, I apologize. There we go. So for a frame of reference, a little bit of background, put it in context again. As Mark mentioned, we first looked at the east side development area of this 1,000 acres. And we have, since that time, looked at, made the distinctions between, aviation and non-aviation development. And when we looked at the non-aviation development opportunities, we further refined it to identify the village at, what we call the Village at Lariat Landing, which is a retail mixed-use development. And we have going to present today some of the urban plan results of the workshops that we had. And without any further ado, so I can sit down, I would like to bring Francois DeCock up here from Half & Associates to walk us through the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Mr. Chairman, members of the Trust, thank you for this opportunity to present to you this morning. First of all, the agenda that I want to discuss with you is including the visioning session that we had. We went through a process of developing ideas for this project. And then Dennis will talk about the outcome of that visioning session. We'll talk about the urban design concept itself, Lariat Landing. We will talk about the development standards, some implementation strategies. And then I will also talk about the marketing brochure that helps to sell the idea of this development, and then a few ideas and thoughts about next steps. Well, first of all, as a team, as a planning team, we set up shop right in the airport. Over a couple of 4 days, we had everything there, all our pencils and markers and papers and everything. And we met with a number of people in different groups. In fact, we met with the stakeholder group, which included the Airport Trust, the City Council, City and Airport Management, the EDC and Chamber of Commerce. We also met with the technical group that were represented by City and Airport staff, including planning, engineering, public works and transportation. And lastly, we also met with some of the development community, specifically the retail sector, because we wanted to get some input from them. How do they view the ideas that we developed, and how do they see this work out in terms of what their goals may be with a development like this? So we developed a number of ideas and concepts to accommodate the retail and the mixed-use development for this site. And right now, Dennis will talk about the preferred option that we developed out of that. Dennis.
Thanks, Francois. The real objective is to create a regional identity for this village, mixed-use village center, and associate it with the airport in a number of ways, and we'll talk about that. The key is on a mixed-use development like this is to create a sense of entry and experience going into the development. The development being primarily a mix of retail and restaurant uses associated with office and hotel types of uses, as well as other compatible uses. Important to these pedestrian-oriented mixed-use districts is creating a sense of place, which is done by the design of the streets and the creation of a public open space at the center. So there's a an identity and a landmark. We're trying to associate it with the identity of the airport, and that can be done in a number of ways through public art and what is put in there. The architecture of buildings can be associated with airports. Possibly even a viewing tower so that the public can come and watch planes take off and land, which is kind of an exciting thing for a lot of people. A great theater architect said that the show begins at the sidewalk. So this entry feature and the entry experience is really important to this type of a district. We're creating basically a framework of sort of the public realm comprised of streets and trails and public open space, which becomes a framework or an armature, if you like, for development to plug into. And then the final point I wanted to make is that the important thing about this, because it's sitting in the airport on airport lands, is the flexibility for both the sort of village core area and airport-related uses to expand as appropriate over time and demand. So we wanted to make sure that that flexibility was built into the layout of that planning. Development standards are really important for the developer and for the airport because it ensures we're asking for a higher level of development quality here for these kinds of environments. And it ensures that a developer is willing to expend the money to do that extra level, go that extra mile, if it's protected. And the building across the street, down the block, is going to have to do the same sort of thing. The implementation strategy on these types of districts, it's important that amenity packages, some amenities are put in early on in the development process up front, which establishes and sort of announces this is a special place, this is a unique area, and that generates buzz and interest and attracts the quality tenants. The right developer is crucially important because we want to look for a developer who has experience in both building and leasing these kinds of projects because the retail mix and the phasing of mixing are really important to the success of the district. It's also important to sit down in a public-private partnership. Almost all districts of this nature around the country have this public-private partnership aspect to it. And so we need to sit down at the table with the developer and make sure that the airport and the developer get a good return on investment for what they're doing. There are various things that a developer can do better than the airport. Some things the airport can do better than a developer. Every development agreement and these kinds of partnerships are different. There's no two alike, I think, in the country. And it's unique to the location, to the developer, to the agency involved. The ultimate goal of all of this is really to create a development that has long-term viability for the airport and for the developer. This is not the kind of development that you have a typical 30, 40-year time horizon or 20, 30-year time horizon, and then it starts to fade and you have to redevelop it and get it up to speed. We're trying to build a sustainable, high-quality infrastructure of public realm and buildings that will attract reinvestment over time.
You know, Dennis mentioned the importance of the right developer. In order to get the right developer, you need to create some interest, some excitement about this. So what we did is we put together a marketing brochure. And this is a hard copy of it, and Mark afterwards can circulate it amongst you that you can look at it and feel and touch it. But the first page really has an introductory paragraph. It has a context map that helps the reader understand where is this Larry Landing situated within the airport property, and a character sketch. If you open it up, the spread inside includes then a sketch of the development, as well as some character sketches on the side, and some important facts about Larry Landing. Again, very, very high-level facts, not detailed. The idea is not to be detailed. The idea is to create interest and excitement about this. And then when you turn around the last page, you will notice another character sketch, some other highlights about Larry Landing, and some demographics, some information about program opportunity, etc. Again, not very much detail, but the purpose is for someone to pick this up and say, gosh, I really want to be part of this. So that's the goal of that. Well, with that, what we will do as a final product or deliverable for this project, we will have a design report that really captures everything that we've done, and everything will be put together in one document. With that, if there's any questions, thank you.
Mark, I would just comment that, the devil's in the details on this stuff, and, inches make a difference, and feet make a difference, and width of travel lanes, all that. And are we going to have an opportunity to get into that kind of detail on it? I mean, if I could, I'd like to sit down with these guys and get into some detail. Because,
Sure, we can absolutely.
There's an inherent conflict between pedestrians and automobiles, and we can't tell the answer to that from what I've seen today.
Sure. And Tracy, maybe you want to answer.
Absolutely. This is a specific scope of work that went to this level, and certainly before anything is implemented, there will be continuing conversations and an implementation plan as to the next level of detail, phasing, talking to developers, making sure we get it right. Not only get it right in a traditional development scenario, but get it right for an airport environment, which has this other layer of detail. So absolutely.
I just don't want it to be that we're blessing it today and
No.
the train has left the station.
No, this is an ongoing conversation. Before we got into this process, I consulted with the Chamber and also Kathy O'Connor with the Alliance, and it was sort of agreed that we would bring this level of detail up to this point. We also want to have a development outreach meeting with developers in Oklahoma City. We've already done that with this project, on 2 occasions, priorly for the whole development and one specific for this on the retail side. And then I think we need to get also a conversation with the finance institutions, commercial real estate people, and get their views on this too before we go forward and start marketing. The marketing brochure here is not just for the airport to market, it's also for other city staff and the Alliance and the Chamber to take this on their road show so that they can show others in Oklahoma City what we're doing and how we're planning to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just have one more comment by saying that, this is a different development. You don't see it everywhere, and it's unique. And I want to make sure that the Trust does have that comfort level, that as you move forward, that you can support it full-heartedly.
I'll just comment. We've seen developments like this around the country. I don't believe there's anything like this in certainly central Oklahoma. And I'm a developer. But, if we go talk to our developers, the chance of them being able to pull this off is somewhere between slim and none because they've not done it. And so it's going to have to be something to accomplish what I hear you saying is going to have to be something that hasn't been done here before, and I'm all for that. We're not going to be able to do it the normal way, or you won't hit what you're shooting at.
Certainly. And what was exciting to me was to see the retail sector that we met with, which are developers as well, and they got very excited about this and what we tried to do. So I think it's a conversation that you have to initiate, get people to feel comfortable with what we want to achieve, and I think if you get the right people in the right place and around the right table, right time, I think you can achieve this.
Thank you.
Just to bring you up to date on the construction on the realignment of Portland, the south portion is underway and has been for some months and moving along well. That project is being handled by the Public Works Department. Public Works is also handling several utility relocations for the south portion and also the north portion of the project, which the Airport Trust will hold that contract. We have already done our final review of that contract, and we'll hope to bid that in the spring.
I could pick this to death, but the point is, if you put in the infrastructure for Portland through this site, you've determined the development. just by the way that's done. So I think, if we're wanting it to replicate what we see in other parts of the country, we need to pay attention to that kind of detail.
Thank you.
Mark, tell me, or everybody, tell me whether I should be concerned about this or not. This particular Lariat Landing, you've mentioned two components to it, one retail, and then you also mentioned the word hotel, so there's a hotel component in there. To the north of the airport is the hospitality district on South Meridian that is in the process of trying to develop a business improvement district to revitalize and to build in that area a sustainable amenity to attract and support the travel industry. And that theoretically could be in competition with the hotel component of Lariat Landing. Going along with that, since Lariat Landing got started, the retail businesses in David's area along I-240 South have formed an Envision 240 component to revitalize the I-240 corridor, basically from Crossroads back to where Lariat Landing is. And how does all this fit in with that? And I'm interested by the fact that there's no representatives from either of those entities that are involved right today, right here in this presentation. Are they aware of all the detail that's going on here? And is there a competitive aspect to this that we need to be aware of?
There's not a competitive aspect that we're trying to achieve. Actually, we're working in harmony, I believe, particularly on the Envision 240 project, because during this planning process that we've been in the last year with these folks, we actually had the South Chamber involved with that process, and there was a lot of talk of synergy between the Envision 240 project and the airport.
Yes. If I may say, in respect to that, I think, but I understand the concern that it may pull attention away from, say, along I-240. I really can't speak about Meridian Avenue, but I think it's actually going to draw attention to all of South Oklahoma City, and it'll have a spillover effect, and the area along I-240 will become more important, more attractive for retailers, and hopefully it'll just spread all the way back to I-35 and Crossroads Mall, and it'll really give the incentive or the kind of the jump start to get I-240 back to where it was, say, 50 years ago from a retail perspective.
Mr. Chairman, from a macro standpoint, obviously we need to be sensitive to the Meridian folks up there and probably need to touch base with them up there. But the fact of the matter is there are thousands upon thousands of hotel rooms in the metro area, and based upon the growth rate where you're seeing hotels being built around, it appears to be a fairly healthy industry at this point in time, and we do need to renew our hotels and bring in new product from time to time. And I would submit to you that I think that it's such a small number of hotel rooms based upon the whole metro area that it probably won't have an impact on them. But I do agree with your sensitivity that's something that basically we need to cover.
May I just make a few comments? One thing I've learned in the past couple of years is to speak often and consistently. So I'd like to throw out some suggestions. I know that's not what this was intended to be, but I think we've got a great logo at the airport. I'd like to see that be displayed predominantly throughout this development, even maybe that being the top of the observation tower, which leads me to suggest that we really need to try to have an observation tower, if at all possible, in there. Similar to like in Seattle, the Space Needle. While it's a great view, you can see films and all sorts of other attractions within the Space Needle other than just looking out on the skyline of Seattle. I'd like to see something like that as well, something that's truly unique to the entire state of Oklahoma. And then finally, if we could begin working with ODOT, our highway department, to see if we can, since 74th Street will be the gateway into this development, if we could do something as far as something unique and attractive, not to the same scale as the Skydance Bridge over I-40, but something that covers where I-44 crosses 74th Street, some type of arches or something unique that'll capture attention for the cars going down I-44, but also serve as a grand entranceway into the development from the east side of it, you know, going under the underpass of I-44 along 74th Street. And I think everybody would be very receptive to it, from the college, hopefully ODOT, and as well as the developers too. So, thank you for listening.
I can tell you Oklahoma City Community College is ecstatic about this project. They were there during all 3 days of the charrette process. Also, I've had conversations with Public Works Director Eric Winger regarding the ODOT issues. We understand that that's a challenge because that's just a 2 cloverleaf intersection off of I-44 and 74th Street, and we know that we're going to have to engage ODOT in the future for this long-term development plan so that we can hopefully update the ingress and egress from that area. And also the north portion of the Portland project, which the Trust will have, and this goes by the wayside. A lot of people focus on just Portland Avenue being relocated, but actually Southwest 89th Street and Southwest 74th Street are both going to be improved from the new Portland east to Interstate 44. And one of those aspects on Southwest 74th Street that was a part of this project that we actually amended Johnson Associates' contract was to widen Southwest 74th and actually do a better median and actually a better enhancement to the entrance to this facility from I-44.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Greenwald, I do appreciate your enthusiasm and your vision out there. May want to remind you that there's a crosswind runway out there that kind of comes toward the development, and that may temper any height. No, I understand, but we'll have some limitations in that area.
We already have, David, a very iconic structure going up the intersection of South Meridian and I-40 with a 9-story office building, a hotel, which I believe has been approved by the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Couch, I don't know if you were up on that. I'm not sure the status. That is what I heard. And so maybe that's going to be the observation tower, and that'll placate the folks at the hospitality district.
Thanks, Tracy, Francois, and Dennis for your time.
Thank you all for your presentation. And any more for Director's Report?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that Director's Report. Thank you for that presentation. Moving on with our agenda, Will Rogers World Airport, sir.
Thank you. Item A is to adopt a resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing repair services of $28,294.20 with Lane Christensen Company. This is to do some repairs on the airport's irrigation system. Item B is to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of 16 automated external defibrillators for $31,360 from Physio Control Incorporated. Item C is accept the recommendations on the request for proposals for air service development consulting services that were received on August 27th and approve the contract with Intervistas Consulting, LLC, and not to exceed $279,000. Item D is approving the contract for professional services with H.W. Lochner Incorporated. This is for the airport terminal wayfinding and signage project for $302,280. This is phase 1 to study all of these signage and make recommendations for a signage overhaul, not just in the terminal building, but all of the pedestrian and vehicle wayfinding at the airport. Item E is to approve change order number 9 with ResTech Incorporated for a garages A and B repairs project, adding 40 days. That garage project now has been turned over to the airport, and they're doing punch list items now. Item F is approved change order number 2 for the FAA-funded project to replace several components of our airfield lighting, and this is with the Libra Electric Company, adding $21,528.86. We're also approving the final reconciliation amendment, deducting $10,734.57 and completing that project. G is to approve change order number 6 with Downey Contracting, LLC, for a Mike Monroney project with the Flight Standards Building, the roof replacement, and building envelope repairs, adding $6,022.82 in 13 days. Item H is approving the certificate of substantial completion with Dane & Associates with the Aviation Records Building at Mike Monroney, accepting that project as complete. I is to concur with the Consultant Review Committee, authorizing negotiation of an agreement with LWPB Burns and McDonnell. This is for the Will Rogers World Airport Multi-Bay Field Maintenance Facility Addition project. Item J is to approve a purchase order for design services with Frankfurt Short Bruza Associates for a Mike Monroney project at the headquarters building slab repair project for $60,986. That's all the items for Will Rogers.
Thank you, Mark. What is the trustees' desires?
Second?
The motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And it is so approved. Wiley Post and Clarence E. Page.
Thank you. Item A is to adopt the resolution ratifying the director's actions approving the original purchase order for $41,496.13, waiving competitive bidding and approving an increase of $13,837.12 to the purchase order for Diversified Construction of Oklahoma. They are working on some Hangar 3 door tracks and ran into some issues in the field, and we need to reinforce concrete so that the hangar doors can be hung more effectively and be reinforced. Item B is to concur with the Consultant Review Committee, authorize negotiations of an agreement with Howard & Associates. This is for the Wiley Post Airport field maintenance site. We're looking at the site location and possibly a future design for a new maintenance facility at Wiley Post. Those are the two items.
Trustees? Motion to a second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. And it is so done. General.
I'd like to receive the delinquent accounts receivable report, construction project status report, and the budget to actual report as of October 31st, 2013. B is to approve the request for proposals for security services, authorize advertisement for the proposals to be received December 31st, and that's all items under general.
Trustees' desires?
Move the item.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Lease agreements.
Item A is ratifying the airport director's actions in approving and consent to an airline operating revocable permit with Allegiant Air LLC for its operation of Part 121 scheduled air carrier service at Will Rogers World Airport. Their inaugural flight was last Thursday going to Orlando Sanford Airport. They'll be flying 2 days a week. Item B is approving supplement management services agreement number 9. This just formalizes a name change from AMCO AMCO System Parking to ABM Parking Services at Will Rogers. Item C is approving the agreement to abandon surface locations, several locations on the east side of Will Rogers with Marathon Oil. And then item D is to approve a lease agreement at Clarence E. Page Airport for Harvey Dwayne Powers for an individual aircraft hangar site for the storage of privately owned aircraft for a 5-year period. That's all the leases today.
You've heard the leases. Trustees' desires?
Move the items for approval.
Second?
The motion is second. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. And they are so moved for approval. Next item on our agenda is under paragraph 8. What is the desires of the trustees with the item under paragraph 8?
Move we adopt the resolution.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. And is so adopted. Comments from trustees?
Yes, sir.
Seeing none. Comments from staff? Seeing none.
I've got one, sir. I wanted to introduce Jared Beatty. Jared, would you just stand or raise your hand? Jared is the new attorney that was hired by the municipal counselor's office to support the airport and give Jamie some relief from several projects. And Jared, you started what day? 2 weeks ago? Okay, so he's ready to go. He's enjoying quite a learning curve right now, and so I appreciate him being on board. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome. Comments from citizens? Seeing none, we are adjourned.